Michael will join us shortly, but why don't we call the meeting to order? This is the Finance Committee meeting of January 23rd, 2023. In attendance from the committee, we've got Todd Dargy, Cheryl Jarella Burke, John Smalling, Frank Johnson, and Jim Walters, and myself, Tom Connolly. Before we dive into the agenda, I was thinking we would put this at the end, but I think we should probably put it now. So I propose to the committee we consider nominations for chairman, and consistent with my understanding of the rules around our having private conversations. Just want to let the committee know I haven't had a single private conversation in this regard. The chairman's role is really one of sort of organizing and administration. We don't always agree, but I think we all sort of always act in the best interests of our constituents, the other residents of Halifax. As you know, I've had to give my notice on stepping down as a member and as a chairman of the committee, and I honestly can't even remember the process by which I was elected chairman. So I'm sort of winging it here, because our former chairman, who actually had a PhD in municipal government, so she was a hard act to follow. I know that she moved out of town and suddenly there was a nomination. So in keeping with that tradition, I would like to nominate Todd Dargy for the chair. I have not spoken to him about it, so he may not even be willing to accept, but I think his financial background and the energy that he's shown in the short time that he's been on the committee, I think longer tenured than I was when I took over as chairman. So I'd like to put that nomination forward and see if I could get a second.
I second that.
The second from my vice chairman. Thank you. I think though too, we should hear if there are any other nominations before I take a vote, and also maybe before that, not to quote a former disgraced president, but if nominated, would you accept, Dodd?
Yeah. Well, first, thanks for the nomination, and yeah, I would accept it. It's been an honor to serve, amongst this committee. I think we still have a lot of work to do, and I'd be happy to to chair it and hopefully make some marked improvements on improving the town overall. And so whatever I can do to help the town and help the all for it. So.
I should ask, are there any other nominations from the committee? Okay, then I'd like to ask, I know we have a quorum even though Michael's not here, but I'd like to ask for a roll call vote. First, Sandy, am I following procedure here?
Yep, that's usually how it's done.
Yeah. Okay. So roll call vote, please. Cheryl?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Frank?
Yes.
Jim?
Yes.
And myself, Tom Connolly, is a yes. Michael Bennett's absent, but I think the motion carries, and I wish you congratulations and good luck, Todd. I think you'll be a great chairman. I'm not moving. I'm stepping down for health reasons, so I'm gonna be around, and if I can help at all, I'll be happy to help with the transition. Now, with that, why don't we launch into the agenda as we put it forward. First, on minutes, my commitment to this committee is there are about 5 meetings with which we have sat and had no finance secretary. When we do get a secretary, we have all of these meetings recorded, and I will sit with the secretary and we will compose minutes for each of the meetings and make sure that we have meetings that we're able to accept. But I've just not been able to get minutes done on our meetings, but since they're all recorded, we will catch up, and that'll be one of my transitional activities. So why don't we delay acceptance of the minutes, and we'll move that one forward until we get the next agenda item taken care of. We have 3 nominations for Finance Committee Secretary. Sandy, maybe if you could ask, I mean, in these, we have one who is a soon-to-be former employee who's retiring in Holly Mary. I think all three from their resumes are qualified for this. The advantage I see with Holly perhaps is that she knows the town and she knows where things are. Michael Bennett suggested that we have a meeting on the 30th to just do interviews, and that we ask all three to come in. Sandy, is that really a requirement? Should we follow that procedure? Or I'd like to hear from the committee if they have other alternatives that we might want to do this by. I know that we need to do it with all due speed because we're limping along without a secretary.
Right. So usually you do interview, you have three candidates that you felt were qualified for the position. So you would typically interview for them. And I thought, I guess I put out the meeting for the 30th just because I thought you guys were on your every Monday schedule. So next Monday we can reach out and try to schedule appointments for them to come into the Zoom meeting and interview.
That would be great. Okay.
I'm sorry, one question on
Yeah.
that. Would that be in the evening, Sandy, as our typical 6 o'clock?
Just
Regular
like this meeting, a
Yes,
6
okay.
o'clock meeting, and all we would do is interview.
Okay, yeah, because my afternoon's tied up on the 30th.
Okay.
Now on these, do we do them in executive session, Sandy? Do we have to do them publicly? How?
Well, you would do them
do them
publicly.
publicly? Okay, so each candidate will, sort of awkward, each candidate will sit through each of their potential their competitors' interviews.
Right.
Little
And
Or maybe we
Cody-
could stagger it.
Can't we make appointments for them?
Well, the challenge is it's a public meeting, so we can certainly make appointments. But everybody has the
Listen, right.
right to be on, right?
So Cody, you can correct me, but I believe it would have to be done in an open session.
Yeah,
Usually-
it
yeah.
would. And you also need to confirm with the three candidates that they want to be considered, because once, obviously, if you have a meeting, their name goes public. So you just need to confirm with them before, giving their names or anything tonight, that they want to move forward as a finalist and be interviewed in an open meeting.
So we can't assume that all three have given that consent by accepting, by applying, Cody?
Correct, yes. You need to expressly get their approval for this.
Okay, so why don't we do that? I've already mentioned one's name, but I won't mention any others, and we will get those approvals and invite them to the next meeting on the 30th at 6.
Okay. How much time do you want to leave for the interview? You want to do a 20-minute or a?
I think 20 apiece is probably ample for this role. Any other views on that?
I think 20 would suffice.
I believe so too.
Okay.
Yep, I agree.
Good. Then that's how we'll proceed. So that'll be next Thursday. No, I'm sorry, next Monday.
Yep.
Via Zoom at 6 p.m.
Very good.
Who's going to make the notifications to the three candidates?
So why don't I have all their, Sandy, go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, if you want to do it, Tom, that's fine.
Why don't you've been carrying the load here. Why don't I email all three of them? I've got their resumes and email addresses and all of that. So why don't I invite them, and then shall we do it as first agenda item, do 6:20 and 6:40?
That makes
Sure.
sense.
Sounds
Okay.
good.
All right, that's what we'll do.
And do we have
Hopefully
any
all
sense?
three can make those time frames as well.
Yeah.
Do we know if these candidates have applied to any of the other secretary jobs that are out there, I guess, or being considered for those roles?
I do not know. I haven't talked to any of them. Well,
Yeah, and I would only know finance committee, so I'm not sure if they've applied to any others. Do they have to be a town resident or not?
no.
Because I know that at least one is not. Okay, and could you remind me, what is the hours allocation we have for this? Is it 5?
So we allow we budget for 5 hours a week. So in January through May, it could be more than 5 hours a week.
Yeah.
But then June through December, it could be less. It could be considerably less.
Yeah. Okay.
So the 5 hours is based on the 52 weeks then?
Right.
Okay,
So it's a non-exempt role, so we would her payroll fluctuate, he or she? Or would it?
Yeah,
it would
Absolutely. 'Cause
fluctuate,
it's
right?
an
So she
hourly.
report her
So
hours,
she
it's
would
hourly.
Put in a time card for how many hours she worked,
Just
and she
confirm.
would be paid hourly, yes.
Okay, so more in January to May, less in June to December.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
And just curious, so once we do the interviews, how do we come to a conclusion on who we'd want to hire? Is that done by vote, or do we do that just in discussion? Just curious how that would work.
Done by vote.
Is it?
You
Okay.
guys, yeah, you guys will, someone will make a motion to pick one of them and
Okay.
you'll vote.
Okay.
so we'll do it on Monday night. We'll have a discussion amongst us in the meeting and then make the motion and then do the vote on Monday night. Is that correct?
That,
Okay.
I would believe so.
Yeah.
Just because time is sort of an essence.
Yeah.
So rather than putting it off another week,
Bless you.
Yeah.
no.
Thank you. Cody or Sandy, so do we, there's no opportunity for, I don't know, I'm trying to respect the privacy of the
I know.
candidates here. You know, I'm used to doing pretty brutal downloads after an interview process. So perhaps we just rank order them, or we just take a vote.
What you can do is, after you interview them, you can have a general discussion. Typically I'd recommend keeping it positive, in all regards, and then just getting a consensus of where you all are as a committee. And then if you you get the sense that you're all, or most of you are on the same page, then somebody can make a motion to hire someone. But you can have a discussion beforehand, before someone makes a motion, and just get each other's opinions on the candidates.
Okay, got it. All right, so we'll do that. Keep it as positive as possible. I mean, I'm sure they're all three really interesting candidates, so I don't think there's no real downside that we're going to be dealing with here. Okay, and we'll have potentially 3 votes, beats 15. Cheryl, did you have a question?
And all this has to be done publicly?
Yes.
Even
Yeah.
our discussion with all listening? There's nothing in executive session so, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it's even, the advice that I got about, I wanted to reach out, my impulse was to reach out to Todd and make sure he wasn't going to tell me to pound sand when I nominated him, but I couldn't do that. So yes, I mean, that's the nature of municipal government as compared to
Yeah.
private
So
sector.
Cheryl, if we had a screening committee, like someone, if you had put together a group that would
Right, which,
go through all the resumes and everything, that
right,
can be done in executive session.
But
But
this
once you
can't be.
decide who you're going to interview,
it can't
that
be.
has to be done in open session.
Okay. Yeah, it's a difference between city and town government, yeah. Big difference.
All right, any other questions? I think we have a way forward on this agenda item. Okay. February meeting schedule. I mean, my recommendation, I mean, I'm going to do a transitional couple of meetings and then turn it over to Todd. So I defer to him, but I think we're back on a weekly schedule for a little while here, folks. There's just a lot to be done between now and when the warrant has to be written. Sandy, would you agree?
I would say so, yes. Do we have a holiday in February?
We do
do.
Washington
President's Day.
President's Day, the
So that would
20th.
be the 1 week that you wouldn't meet.
I think it's the 20th, isn't it?
That is correct.
Yes.
20th, yes.
So you're gonna meet the 30th, and then in February, the 6th, the 13th, and the 27th.
27th.
I'm gonna miss the 13th.
Okay, but
I'll
we'll,
be in Florida.
Oh, lucky you.
bragger.
Right.
All right,
We're
but we
also
should,
gonna have the wage and personnel meetings in February as well on the 8th and the 22nd.
Right.
Same in March on the 8th and 22nd as well.
I'll miss the 8th, so. Wage and personnel, I'll be going on the 8th.
should have forms for those too.
Yeah.
Okay. So is that it for scheduling? We're gonna do the 6th, the 13th, and the 27th. And we have wage and personnel, thanks for reminding us, on 8 and 22.
8 and
Right.
22 and 8 and 22 in March as well.
Right. And you all remember you have the public hearing this Wednesday, the 25th.
6
Right.
o'clock
Yeah,
upstairs.
And I was saying before, I've printed out all of those proposed amendments. I have a folder for each of you for the meeting and put everything in order, and we should be able to go right through them.
Is it at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock on Wednesday?
All right, so therein lies the confusion. The selectman's assistant and I both just put it at 6 o'clock because that's how we've been doing the meetings. And we forgot that the selectman had said 7 at their meeting. If 6
Okay.
o'clock works for everyone, we'll keep it at 6.
it does.
Yeah, I'm good with 6.
I'm good with 6.
Yeah, I agree. 6 is probably better.
I do recall we took a vote on 7, but
Yeah.
I agree. We should do it at 6. I was surprised that we took that vote.
Yeah, selectmen are always at 6 anyhow, too, you know, so I was
Maybe at
surprised
6
when
also, yeah.
John said 7 that night.
Right. I think that's, yeah. I think that that's where Pam and I were coming from, is we usually meet at 6, so
Yeah.
that's what we had put down.
For other members of the committee, Cheryl, I mean, I don't remember wage and personnel committee meeting during my tenure. So we have 4 I think it's great that we have 4 meetings scheduled.
There was, but none of us, only Melinda was involved with those.
I see. So and that was prior to my joining. We did not have one ever with,
Right. She was the person that was delegated from finance committee. And
Okay.
then they decide right after that budget session, they decided to no longer have wage and personnel. That's why we're in this position and why it's come to the finance committee and the select people to become it.
it just didn't work the other way. So I think going back to having a, particularly with the competitive challenges that we've got and the turnover that we're dealing with, I think it makes sense to have a standing committee. So that's great. This next item, good. So everyone's clear on the 25th. We'll move to the next agenda item, which this agenda item will be on the agenda for the next 4 months, folks. So if there's nothing to discuss other than everyone is clear on their assignments, and of course, any progress that you'd like to report about reaching out to your department heads or beginning to understand the budgets or any questions about that, we should of course have them, but it's now's when we get serious and start doing the weeklies of looking at all of the material that Sandy puts into the folders for us. And in the report yet, committee on your department heads or any issues?
I have,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Cheryl.
I have appointments with 3 of mine for this week.
Good. Okay.
I met last week with the Board of Health and the building inspector. I had a scheduled meeting with veterans and, but he had a medical issue he had to deal with. So we've got to reschedule on that.
Okay. Anyone else? Anything else to report?
I've had a few myself with town clerk and assessors, so just working through them. But I know that there's they submitted a couple items for the wage and personnel as well, so we discussed that a bit.
Okay.
Yeah, my departments have as well.
So what you probably will want to start thinking about is bringing department heads in also to talk to them, especially ones after you'll be hearing things at the public hearing, but also any department head who's looking for large increases or increases in hours, staff or anything like that, I'm sure you're going to want to have them in to discuss what they're doing.
Todd, it's your agenda. I'd suggest maybe starting on the 13th, we start having department heads in the way we did last year.
Yeah, I was just thinking that, but I was thinking maybe even the 6th, right, in February.
Sure. I mean, particularly on, it's good to ramp into these things. So leave police, fire, and schools till the
I
end.
know. I have police and fire on this
Yeah.
Friday. I have interviews with them. I will mention it for the 6th.
Yeah, so maybe we can kick off with some of the smaller ones on the 6th, I guess, just to start,
Yeah,
tracking.
actually, Charlotte suggesting we leave those three, schools, fires, and schools, fire, and police till a bit later because they're complex and they're
Okay.
I know schools will be controversial.
Mhm.
Right.
When are the budgets due?
They were due, I believe, the 13th of January.
Okay. Because I don't
Well-
see anything from the schools. I see
Yeah.
the library
Right. I did.
for the
I
schools.
reached out to the schools, to Christine Healy, who is the business manager at the schools. And she was going to try to get those sheets to me, but again, so they've been having a staffing issue at the school as well. They lost a couple of people. So her job has just gotten that much more difficult.
Sure.
She is hoping to get those sheets to me as soon as possible.
Okay.
We got them late. We got them late last year too. It's just it is a complicated budget, and Christine works really hard, but it's a hard budget to put together.
Sure. And Tom, I shot you an email last week. I just wanted to see if you could carve some time out at some point so you and I can just
Absolutely.
kind of chat about it.
Yeah, I'll respond tonight. Sorry about that.
Okay. No worries. It's certainly fine. I just wanted to, I don't want to go astray, obviously, and I want to understand what's expected from me and what's expected from them.
Yeah, I'll do my best to help you figure that one out. I'm not sure that I got it completely figured out myself, but
Right.
we will go forward. I mean,
So Jim, you could also reach out to Jonathan Seelig. He is
Okay.
the selectman's liaison to the schools.
Oh, okay.
And he was there for the last meetings where I think they did discuss the budget.
Mhm.
So he might be a good person for you to touch base with as well.
I will absolutely do that. Thank you.
and
Yeah.
and I would drop a note to the superintendent too. She worked really hard last year to just get us active in. They had a couple of sessions at school with lots of constituencies there, and I went to those. I think she is trying to be much more transparent about kind of what the issues are, and
Mister, get off of here. Get down.
we can.
Down.
Is that the cat or a grandchild?
No, it's the cat.
So I think making a connection with her will be really productive too. But we
Okay.
can talk. I'll come back with some times.
Sure, that'd be great.
Okay. Anything else on operating budgets?
I had a question. Todd, you had mentioned earlier, start bringing people in to what you did last year. Can you kind of walk through that procedure or how that went last year? When you start bringing department heads in, what are we talking about? How that works?
We usually
so-
just give us an overview of their budget and any outliers. And by the time they come in, usually we've been able to go through the budget, and Sandy does a great job of lining up prior and current, and we can see the deltas on each of their line items. So we just focus on the line items that have big changes and try to understand those. That's first layer. And then the next layer I always try to do is go through and see, really try and understand the cuts, right? Because sometimes they're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and you just want to understand those things. And remember, our objective is to be able for the representatives to each department is to be able to fully explain the rationale behind the budget, whether we agree with it or not, but to explain that rationale so that if we get questions at town meeting, whoever's in that, whoever was liaised for that seat would be the person we'd rely on for responding to those questions.
Are you doing that in an open format with the department head or?
Oh, yeah. So the department head's going to come into this meeting as a public meeting and talk to us about their budget.
Okay, so they'll talk
now-
about that in an open session then.
Yes. Now,
Oh,
now you
okay.
can have discussions with them individually because you're
Right.
just seeking to understand. And then they'll come and have, it's a fully public discussion of kind of what's up with their budget and what they see as the issues. Last year, for example, with schools, I mean, the big issue, as you guys know, was special education transportation. And we found ourselves on the wrong side of a monopoly. And try as we might to try and move ourselves out of that position, we really weren't able to.
Yeah,
They've been able to get better, but that was the biggest drag on the school's budget last year. 7-figure drag.
yeah.
We have a hand up.
Oh, sorry, Paul.
That would be Jean.
Oh, Jean.
Hi.
Hi.
I-
You're usually Jean. Tonight it's Paul.
Oh, right. I'm just wondering who my liaison is.
That would be me, Gene.
Oh, okay. Hi, Jim.
Hello.
Okay. I just wanted to know. Thank you.
Sure, Jean. All right. Anything else on operating budgets? Okay, Todd, this one is near and dear to both of our hearts, but this has been your cause, if you will. So you want to walk through this one? We've got it on the agenda. Just kind of walk through what you're thinking here for this year.
Yeah, sure. So there's a couple items, I guess. The first one is the list itself. There were 2 items for last year that were sitting out there. I don't know if, Sandy, maybe did we ever address these through one of them which was from Pam, which was
Right. I don't know that they were ever addressed. One of them is from the town clerk. She
Mhm.
was talking about increasing her rates. And I think that
Yeah.
that is something we can look at. Not that it's going to bring in a large amount, but
right.
I think both Pam and Sue were
Susan.
pointing out places that we
We could-
are not charging close to
No.
what the other towns are.
Okay.
So to be more in line with what the other towns are charging. With Pam, who was the treasurer collector at the time, she was talking about the demand. We put a $5 demand on late bills. Other towns are putting, they can go up as high as 30. She was suggesting to go to 15.
Mhm.
And then Sue was talking about the different fees for like her birth certificates and different things like that.
Dog
Just
life.
to be more in line, to be more in line with what the other towns were charging. So it's definitely something that should be looked at. And I'm not sure who makes the decisions, the final decisions.
Yeah,
on
that's what
those.
I was gonna ask next, I guess. Is it just maybe that we make the recommendation and it goes to the selectmen, I guess, for the consideration and
Right. So the demand, I'm not sure if it goes to the selectmen. Cody, I don't know if you know who would be making that decision. Because we have an elected treasurer collector, so I don't know if she can make that decision or not. So
I think
we'd have to look into that.
Yeah, if there's nothing specifically in the bylaw, it would go to the select board, but we can definitely get out a process and make sure that it's correct.
Okay.
It sort of got tabled last year because the size of the problem was so much bigger than the revenue that we saw coming in from this, but it doesn't make sense for us not to do what you're suggesting, Todd, right? Bring these to market rates.
yeah, I think these 2 are kind of no-brainers, I think. So, I mean, once we can kind of define the process, if you guys could just come back on that, like maybe we could ask them to come to the next session on, I guess maybe the 6th, and we can just kind of dust these off, have them kind of somewhat present them, I guess, and we can just talk about them quickly, take our vote, make our recommendations, and then, maybe pass it along to the selectmen for final implementation, I guess.
What was the second one, Todd? Do you recall?
So the first one was from Susan, which was So you all should have the email. I sent an email, I guess, what was it, earlier the week or something, but
Yeah.
the first one was from Susan for a fee increase on vital records and, marriages and birth certificates, things of that nature. So she was suggesting to change the price, from 5 to 10, which, I guess she did some investigation and that was in line with the neighboring towns. She had put in the note there, so. And then the other was from Pam on demand for late bills. So I think it was charging it from, excuse me, changing the charge from $5 to $15. Whereas she also did a survey of some neighboring towns, and it seems like most towns are charging between 15 and 30. So we definitely seem to be on the very low end of those.
Yeah.
And so to Sandy's point, I don't know if it's going to, won't be dramatic revenue increase, but nonetheless, take everything that we can get, I guess, to, be in line with the neighboring towns.
But if we were to run a schedule of, I mean, there are literally dozens of these fee-based services.
Right, yeah.
Right, Sandy? So,
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
building permits, zoning maps, copies of zoning maps and things like that. I mean, should we take sort of putting a full schedule together and comparing our prices to what other towns are doing? I mean, maybe it is substantial, given the dozens of services that town hall provides.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I mean, these are two great ideas, but I think, we should take a step back, maybe look at it more holistically and just review all of our fees and see where they're out of line and, what we should do to bring them in line.
Chief has his hand up on this, Chief.
Yeah, one of the other items that was considered that didn't go to town meeting was the fees for dog fines. We're definitely not charging as much as other neighboring towns, and I put in an article in, and then town council got involved and kind of muddled everything up, so that didn't go. So that's another option that we could look at again.
Yeah, so does it make sense, I guess, maybe Sandy, to go back out to the department heads to have them take a look at their fees and
Sure.
do an analysis, I guess, of the neighboring towns? Do we want to specify which towns to compare against, or
Yep.
open-ended, I guess?
Well, we have the gang of 10 already.
Yeah,
We use for wages and things like that. Maybe we could use that as the
be
reference
consistent.
point.
Yeah, right.
Now, Sandy, do we have, I mean, there's got to be line items in your general ledger. Do we have a list of fee-based services that we provide in the town?
Well, every department has their own fees, like we have building permit fees through the building department and trench permit fees. Then we have Board of Health has a set of fees. So we do have a number of different things we could look at. And I will send out a note to the department heads and ask them to look at their fee schedules, compare them to other towns,
Okay.
and see where we should be.
Okay, that'd be great. I'm not sure why we haven't raised them in the past if we've fallen that far behind. Okay. And then we have a folder in the we have a folder on the OneDrive that for anyone who we wanted to do a sort of brainstorming thing. It's public, but anything that we think we ought to explore, drop a note into that OneDrive, just a little Word document or something, so that we can capture them. And Todd had that set up last year.
Yeah, and so that's a perfect segue, Tom, into the next aspect, which is the form that we brought up last week with Caesar. So we put a little more work into that, or I should say Caesar did. I don't know, Caesar, are you thing, or we wanted to just kind of share the give you guys a sample of what the form looks like. So basically what we're trying to do is just facilitate the process, to be able to efficiently capture the items from the department head. So there's a form that was created.
So there should be a link in the finance committee folder that says, new revenue ideas form. If you click on that link, it should open up the web, the web form they can fill out. Todd has access to pretty much gather all the results from that, but pretty much every field is its own column in an Excel table, so allow them to sort through, the various questions a lot easier.
I'm just sharing my screen now. Can you guys all see it or?
Perfect. Did everyone,
Yeah,
everyone see the screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. So basically, so this is the link. So I can, it's in the folder like Caesar mentioned, but and he'll share it with the department heads as well. But I'll send it off to you guys too in the email just so you have it, readily available. But basically, the way this would work is, they type in their name, the department, and then the revenue type. So if it's new or existing, whatever, and or other, so they kind of just put that in there and then explain the detail of the revenue idea, the estimated revenue source or implementation cost. So, how much, if applicable, it would cost to implement the revenue idea, if that's known. The estimated, revenue gain. So for instance, a perfect example of these pathways we were talking about, if we're, raising the prices from $5 to $10, let's say, then just looking at the past, transactional activity over the, say, the past year or something, just get a sense of that estimated revenue increase. The targeted fiscal year implementation date, which, most cases will be the current year, but nonetheless have that as a selection just in case. And then, any preliminary requirements for fiscal year implementation target that need to be considered. So just kind of an open forum box to type anything in there that's needed, and then a place where they can upload any supporting documents or files to be reviewed. So once this is all submitted, which as you can see should take like a minute or two really to fill out, then we'll aggregate that onto the Excel file, and then that'll give us a nice one-stop shop, I guess, if you will, of all of the ideas, and be able to then apply, statuses to them and things of that nature, and make sure that I guess there gets action on them.
Great. It's just a web form?
Just a web form.
Great. So there's a link out there. That's super. All right.
Yep.
And you can file them. That's really good.
So this is what we have today. So if anybody has any ideas or thoughts of, something we should add a caption here, then, please, feel free to bring it up, and we can tweak this as we go as well. Obviously, if we think something's maybe missing as we start going through the process, but I think this is a good start to start, facilitate the idea capture.
Todd, that been distributed to the different department heads?
Yeah, it hasn't yet, but we wanted to present it to you all here first, just for your opinions and things of that nature, and then post this meeting, Caesar will share it with the department heads and ask for them to start filling this out as they go, as we move forward with this initiative.
Does this go to a general, what I'm assuming it goes to finance committee, is that correct?
Yeah.
Well, we won't receive the form directly. It'll go into that folder. So we have so in that drive.
So you won't be, so maybe if I can clarify, they won't be individually emailed to you, Frank, but there's a folder on the OneDrive that will have all of these individual folders and a spreadsheet.
Yeah. So do you have this folder here, Frank?
Yeah, I'll go with, I haven't seen that, Todd, but I'm going to jump in there and take a look at it right quick.
Yeah, the new revenue ideas folder, I'm going to try to have the results, or at least the compiled results export to that location. That's just the last part that I'm working on.
Okay.
But all the form results will go into the form, and then I gave Todd a link just as a central point, so that way everything's kind of central to be able to go in there and edit the form itself, and also look at all the responses, but also export at his discretion a full Excel report of the responses.
Okay.
Yeah, so the end product will be like this revenue tracker here, which will, be filled out obviously with, all of those columns. And so just facilitate, that whole process of, capturing everything consistently and things of that nature. And then we'll enhance this form a bit to have, we do have statuses here, in review, et cetera. So, we'll that, and these are the two that are sitting out there today that, I calculated possible, really like a 20-point tab, I guess, and which I guess we can add, we can add a line item for the, the topic we discussed tonight, which is the, holistic review of, the fees across all departments.
Yeah, and things like dog fines, and maybe there'll be new ones too, things that we just aren't charging for, that.
Yeah.
It would make sense, right, if for folks that are using them. We won't ask the library to make the copiers a revenue center, like we were seriously talking about last year, because it
No,
was.
we keep that as a revolving fund. They needed
Yes,
to buy the
exactly.
ink and paper.
Exactly right, exactly right. But no, that's where we were scraping the bottom of the barrel last year a little bit, I recall.
Mhm.
On the form that department heads will fill out, is there a place on there that they put in their submit date on there, or anything like that, or generation date of the form, so we're tracking it that way as well, of when it came in or when they filled it out?
Yeah, the date gets generated automatically
It's
on the timestamp.
Auto, okay, it's auto generated, okay.
Yep.
I think that'll work good.
Me too. Let's get some creativity.
Yeah, hopefully it should. Yeah, at least there'll be a start, right, in the right direction. And like I said, we can tweak the process as we go. But what I'll do going forward on like a weekly basis is just scrub the folder, see if there's anything new that hit out there, and then if we have that as a standard agenda item, going forward, we use that time to kind of review what's out there and tackle the items that way.
Sounds good.
Maybe just so that we're all thinking broadly about this too. I mean, yes, increasing prices, finding new things that we can charge for, that's sort of one vector here. There are other things that we talked about last year, ways of operating. I know I sound like a broken record on this one, but the notion that we have vans for the Center on Aging, and we had a real need for vans for bringing special needs kids back and forth to school. We had vans sitting fallow while we were paying $700,000 for someone else to transfer. So things like that, as you're talking to department heads, if there are ways that we can just be smart as a small town, we should be finding ways to use those. I just firmly believe there's opportunity in that kind of service sharing, All right, we'll get this one off to a good start. Thank you for organizing us, Todd, around that. Anything else on new revenue? Are we good there? All right. Any other business? Any public participation?
You should have all, or actually not all of you, but some of you have received, I wanted to let everyone know that I received the free cash figures. And we did very well. We do have over $1 million in free cash this year that we spend on our capital items. And Todd, I think, had some questions on the free cash on why so high.
No, I think why it was lower than before, right, Todd? But it was, I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
We had COVID money and other things flow in there.
Right.
Yeah, it was like I think it was like 32%, if I remember correctly, year over year decrease, but it was the
extraordinary
It
items.
was a very extraordinary year, the previous year, and that was because of COVID and because of spending the CARES funds, and we had more money turned back in, and because of, we weren't doing a lot of the things that we would normally do during COVID, so not all the money was spent. So your free cash figure comes from any unspent expenditure account and more revenues coming in than you estimate. I am always a very conservative estimator in my local receipts. And sometimes we should try to get a little closer to the figure. But if I am not too close and we bring in a lot more revenues, then we do get a better free cash figure.
Yeah, that's a happy circumstance.
Right. Also, you would see on, and I'll send that sheet out to everyone, but our retained earnings for the water department were very good also this year. And it's our recycling, our solid waste enterprise that is not doing as well. And solid waste is definitely a subject that is going to cause us some heartaches in the next couple of years.
Yeah. When does that contract come due on solid waste?
Well, we got a, like a 1-year extension. We are having an issue. We went out to bid
Yeah,
and no one
nobody wants
bid.
to bid it, right?
No.
Okay.
And the one bid we got in was very high.
With our same
and
supplier,
one of the issues is we have the bags,
right?
and most of the trash companies want you to go to the totes now that are picked up by the truck
Yeah.
because their workers' comp insurance is so high when they have to have an employee picking up the bags. So we are looking at going to the totes.
Mhm.
We'd like to keep the tote at a 48-gallon tote. So that might limit us as to who will be able to do it, because they want you to use a bigger tote. But the problem with that is the bigger the tote, the more trash people will throw away and the less they'll recycle. So we are in discussions on that. That is something we're looking at. Our recycling, we still get some money in from recyclables, but not as much as we used to. So that's a subject that we'll be talking about.
Yeah. So we're into a extension year right now.
Yes.
Any options on the table for continue that extension, or?
We got the extension on the understanding that we were working towards going to totes.
Right, okay.
So
On the water enterprise funding there, now that money has to stay within the water group, is that correct?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
They have a very large project ahead of them to rehab both treatment plants. They have done 2 $520,000 articles over the last maybe 4 years, 3 or 4 years. And they're going to need a lot more. Probably at this town meeting, in fact, I can say at this town meeting, they're going to be asking to go out to bond for 1.6 million to get this job done. And they can support that with the retained earnings that they brought in. They have plenty of money that they'll be able to pay that bond without having to raise rates.
Yeah, okay.
So we feel that they're in a good place. They have a lot of work that needs to be done. Our facilities are pretty old.
Yeah, and our water quality, objectively, our water quality has fallen from among the best in the state to sort of middle of the road.
Right.
So it would be worthwhile for us to invest
Right.
that. Yeah.
Are they having to upgrade due to the PFAS?
Not yet, no.
Not yet, okay,
Mm-mm.
all right.
Sandy, have we started to see the capital requests come in, I guess, and or is there a date, I guess, that?
I haven't had too many come in. I'm going to start reaching out to people. I have been in discussions with Scott Materna, who is our director of building maintenance. He has quite a list of ADA projects that need to get done. We had an ADA study done, and we have a large list. And when you have an ADA study done, you have like 5 years to accomplish that list. And so I do know he's going to have quite a few things to put on the list this year. I have not heard from Highway either, which is sort of surprising. So I think we will probably see something from them. But I know Chief Shavs told me that he's only looking for 1 cruiser, which I don't know. We're in good shape, Chief. We could go for 2. So I think.
Don't tease me like that.
No,
Don't tease
I'm
me like that.
serious. I'd rather see you go for 2 than increase your vehicle maintenance budget. So
It's a short increase anyway. It's not that crazy, but yeah,
Yeah.
I'll think about that. Thank you.
please.
Yeah, next year it might be 1. So it's good if we got it.
Take advantage of it while we have the money. So, but again, I haven't seen too many articles coming in. I expect we will see them in the next couple of weeks.
All right, any other topics for the evening? Okay, is 6:53. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second,
Okay, and a roll call vote. Todd,
Yes.
Cheryl,
Yes.
Frank,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Jim,
yes.
and myself, Tom Connolly, is a yes. Thank you all for your time and attention this evening, and we'll see you next week.
We'll see
Thank you all.
Wednesday.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks.